Good morning, everybody. Oh boy. Okay. We'll get a few extra points that way. We sent a few tokens. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jorge Sebastiao, co-founder of EcoX and also GBO, the global blockchain organization, which is helping with the adoption of blockchain. Obviously, blockchain has been with us for a little bit, almost, I guess, give or take 15 years, or somewhere along the road, 4 years, 5 years after Bitcoin was created. Ethereum came around, which allowed a much more sophisticated version of what we can call today programmable money. And primarily, the biggest change that happened was the introduction of a smart contract within the technology. Smart contracts are very powerful, allow you to establish a whole set of rules. Although we call them smart contracts, they are neither contracts nor smart, but it was just a name, not too much different than we used to have in databases for many years known as stored procedures. So it allowed code to actually, instead of being executed on a specific machine, this code is actually being executed within the blockchain, so it is both decentralized, powerful, and it has all the traceability that is available within the specific blockchain. Since then, many things have happened. Obviously, neither Bitcoin or Ethereum has been enough scalable to perform the number of transactions, so many versions or forks of Ethereum have come around, including Binance Smart Chain and many others are what we call EVM-compatible blockchains. What this has enabled us is to create an ecosystem infrastructure with many variations, and within it, many new use cases of blockchain came around. One of these key use cases is known as DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance. And decentralized finance allows us to have the functionality that you normally would have within a bank or a financial institution, and allows a multitude of potentially inclusive services, low cost, high transaction throughput, and very fast onboarding of new customers. Many things came around, like, for example, staking, the capability of earning money or earning value from tokens that were just sitting idle. The good thing is that those tokens could be either from Ethereum platform or even Bitcoin, because you could have something known as wrapped Bitcoin that allow you to bring your valuable Bitcoins into the Ethereum network and then stake them as if they were in that network itself. So it became quite a sophisticated solution, and within it had good points and bad points in the sense because it was code, it needed to be audited, so the smart contracts could potentially create leak points for the value that was being created. So today, obviously, these solutions have become much more sophisticated, including things like insurance and other inclusive, very cost-effective services. So we have a distinguished set of panelists here that are going to spend maybe 3 to 4 minutes to introduce themselves and do their initial viewpoint on the value and the power that DeFi is bringing to both the blockchain as use case, as well as the evolution into Web3, evolution into metaverse, and all this ecosystem of solutions that we're actually putting together. So good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for the great intro.
I tried to make it all summarized.
That was perfect. Thanks so much. And I'm really looking forward to this panel as well. Actually, coming from Switzerland, a lot of people have heard the word Swiss come up on their news feature today. So I'm really looking forward to speaking a little bit more about finance and the way the future of finance is going to be built. So yeah, my name is SHERAZ AHMED. I'm the managing partner of Stone Partners. We're one of the leading service providers in Europe, helping enterprises, scale-ups, and startups to scale. And I'm also the co-executive director of the Crypto Valley Association, one of the largest non-profits in this space, based out of Zug, Switzerland.
Thank you, Jorge, for your introduction. Very happy to be here on stage today. I'm Giulia. I represent Sygnum Bank here in the UAE. We are very proud to be the world's first digital asset bank. Myself, coming from 17 years of traditional banking, so knowing pretty well the advantages, but as well the disadvantages and the limitations of traditional banking. Will be very happy to give my point of view on what new technologies and blockchain technology in particular has to bring as opportunities to traditional banking.
Hey George, thank you for having me. My name is SAAD. I am the head of emerging technologies at Bloxbytes. We are a leading Web3 center of excellence. We've won several accolades and awards, and we've been in the space for the past 15 years. Definitely with all these news about SVB going down and Credit Suisse getting acquired, DeFi is the hottest topic right now because we are starting to see those gaps within the traditional banking system, and DeFi is truly the answer. I've been one of those people who have been the champion for blockchain DLT technology way earlier on when the first paper came out, because I really saw the potential of what it can do to us. It's all about democratization banking. We have these central banks who are now keeping people's money, and now when you need them, like what happened with the lenders or people at the SVB, when SVB went down, they were in a long line of people waiting to get access to their money, and if FDIC wouldn't step in, they have no access to their money, and now all their funds are blocked. So definitely this is going to be an interesting panel. I've been looking forward to it, the entire conference. Let's get started.
Okay. So one of the things that DeFi does, it allows pretty much every one of you to become your own bank, because you're actually become the custodian of your digital assets, regardless where they happen to be, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any of the other valuable digital assets that exist. So with that comes a lot of responsibility, and there is risks associated with it. I can name a few: KYC, AML, governance, performance, etc. So what do you consider to be primarily some of the critical risks that come with DeFi and that I think you consider important to actually be addressed?
I think with great power comes great responsibility. So as you were saying, the ability to kind of, let's say, self-custody means that you have that ownership yourself. It also means that there's no customer support either, right? You're not going to be able to call the Bitcoin hotline if you send your money, your coins to the wrong wallet, or if you do the wrong thing. I definitely believe that there is a hybrid here between decentralized finance and centralized finance, where you can have some form of human governance that can come on top of the decentralized financial layer, which can allow those individuals that don't want to take a full ownership of their assets, be it partial, but still want to have transparency on what's happening. If we pull back to what Saad was saying with regards to SVB, I mean, I think you can have a certain level of transparency on your assets that you're putting either into some form of a bank account. And I think we're moving towards that. We're moving towards personalized risk. We're moving towards more personalization of what individuals want to do with their money. For example, if you look at different staking pools, you can decide, okay, if I'm going to stake my Cardano in a various pool, maybe this yield is going to go to some form of green energy, renewable energy, etc. So I think that's really the way in which we're moving forward.
Okay.
I think that decentralized finance is an opportunity more than anything else, and very complementary, at least for the time being, to traditional finance. When we talk about DeFi, we generally, of course, think about kind of getting rid of intermediaries, which I think for the time being it's not yet possible 100%. However, the fact of having the aim of empowering users, of giving more accessibility and basically financial inclusion. It's not, I would say, only an economic or financial target or purpose, but even, I would say, a more social purpose, because when you give responsibility, accountability to customers, at the same time you empower them to knowledge, willingness, basically, to be able to understand what they are doing, simply because, as you said, you do it by yourself. So it's, I think, a great way of letting people participating to the financial system. Plus, of course, well, all the advantages which comes with it, which are cost efficiency, more transparency also, and I would say the fact basically of how can I say, overcome the barriers which incumbents today still put in place. And because at the end of the day, and credits and lending is a very good example, at the end of the day, when you go to a traditional bank, it is the bank who decides for you, first of all, classifies your situation into a risky or less risky situation or classification, and allows you, yes or not, to take on this loan, and decides as well about the rate. So when this technological advancement, when you have peer-to-peer networks, APIs, I mean, all of this empowers basically users and gives a very important accessibility to those people who would otherwise not be able to enter into the financial system.
So I think DeFi, where it offers democratization, it offers power back to the users. I think it comes with a lot of risks as well. Some of them being combated already. And as he said, with great power comes great responsibility. We have seen lapses in compliances. We have seen lapses in regulatory frameworks. There isn't a regulatory framework that is out there. And I've read a dozen of papers from World Bank to World Economic Forum, and they don't seem to sort of figure out how do they want to regulate it, because it's very important that although the entire thing is decentralized, but it has to be regulated. The other thing is the huge education gap as well. People like me, we have no problem, using a DeFi application, but for our parents or for people who are a bit older than us, and who have been in traditional banking all their lives, for them, DeFi is a huge gap that needs to be filled with education. The other risk is, since there is not much education of how that entire ecosystem works, they are more susceptible to frauds. And we've seen I've seen several scams being happening in the DeFi space, because everyone wants to sort of get into DeFi, get into cryptocurrencies, but they don't seem to understand that, there's an education that you need to have, level of education or level of familiarity with the entire framework that you need to have before you get into it. And then that's where, those scams and those mishappenings happen. And then suddenly people realize, oh, this is not for us. So I think there needs to be a framework that needs to be developed for education, and then compliances, then for regulatory oversight. And then eventually, we can start talking about how DeFi is going to revolutionize the world of finance.
One of the elements that I think is extremely important when we go to DeFi is cybersecurity or protection of the assets. To give you an idea, close to $3 billion disappeared through some of the smart contracts that had some faults or vulnerabilities in them, or through the bridges between various blockchain platforms. So what is your take on cybersecurity, or maybe how, not necessarily the technical part, but is it something that you consider to be a major aspect that needs to definitely be addressed?
Yeah, I'll take the question from 2 points. So from the first standpoint of it is very scary. I mean, to SAAD's point, of course, education is important. Been in the space for 7 years, and still now when I use bridges, I'm just kind of like, oh, well, is the transaction actually going to happen? And so I think that there is a certain level of fear there, and that even is very tangible with the 3 billion that you mentioned. Now, I think cybersecurity is very important. You have some of the leading players, be it Hackens, Okio, Consensus, etc., that are there to help. I think that, a lot of people now are using ChatGPT, for example, to find vulnerabilities in their smart contracts in some of the various areas. I think there are things that many different individuals and projects can do. But again, then all of those kind of flaws can come up when you can ask ChatGPT to find a vulnerability in another smart contract and they can find it again. So I think it's always a little bit of a kind of a chicken and the egg situation, whereby, of course, you need to spend time on the cybersecurity side, like you need to spend it on all the other elements of your business. So it needs to be a priority, but I always tell to our clients that, yes, you need to focus on cybersecurity, but you need to also focus on various different areas, because if you have no users or you have actually no money within, let's say, that protocol or whatever, what are you securing in the first place?
So we're going to have a new protocol verified by ChatGPT instead of Hacken or Certic. So I don't know, I guess maybe the Certic and the Hacken guys need to upgrade their marketing very soon. What about your take on cybersecurity?
Yeah, well, I think, of course, it's a concern when you have to do with technology. You must be confronted to it. So, well, I think that we have to focus on that, because it is key, basically, to give trust to users, and as well to onboard more and more users and customers, because you can have a very nice product, a very nice idea, being very disruptive, but at the end of the day, if myself, as a client, as a customer, I don't feel at ease, at the end of the day, the idea could be as great as it is, but the adoption probably would be limited.
Obviously, cybersecurity is a big issue for specifically Web3. And, you know, I was actually sitting, I remember around a year back, I was sitting in a SOC 2 audit for one of our clients. You know, and, we actually reached out to a third-party contractor to do some of our internal pen testing. So all they had to do was they came to our site, they plugged in the software and told us what our insecurities were and how we could fill those up. But right now, if you look at the Web3 space, there is no such tool as available. And we've seen a series of hacks, you know, starting from this year. You know, the biggest one was Binance. You know, and we've seen those happening over time, and those are gradually increasing. So, you know, and it's time, you know, we start building a platform which all the data from all these hacks is shared, so that we can move towards developing, you know, as SHERAZ said about ChatGPT, definitely, you know, we can give those data sets to ChatGPT and see, you know, what the faults were, what the fault lines are, and we can move towards developing such tools that can help, you know, as a plug-and-play cybersecurity defense. You know, in our company, we have a team of around 50 individuals who are just dedicated for cybersecurity. You know, and when we started out, we didn't expect to spend so much on cybersecurity, but, you know, with clients like Vulcan and all, everything is so hyper-focused. You know, a lot of money is flowing into the ecosystem. Specifically right now, Web3, you know, there's a lot of money that is flowing in, a lot of liquidity that is coming in, and it's getting hard to manage that because of high volume of attacks from hackers. So there's a really specific need for automated tools such as ChatGPT powered by detailed data sets of a previous hack, so that, you know, we can start identifying the problems and start fixing those.
One of the things when I read white papers about DeFi projects, they always say we are about inclusion or banking for the unbanked. However, I think DeFi does have an issue, and one of the issues that I think needs to be addressed is what I call the user experience. So I would like our panelists to maybe have, what is their view of the user experience, given that we have 1 billion Indians, 1 billion Africans, 2 billion Muslims, and maybe the guy sitting in the back of the room or the guy holding the camera, you know, what is your experience in connecting your MetaMask wallet to your Chrome or your Brave browser? Maybe not always so easy or so friendly. Mm-hmm. So what is the things that need to be done on the user experience side to gain traction or better adoption or better inclusion?
Yeah, I think we're not totally there yet, which is okay to a certain extent. I mean, I think it would be better to refine the processes out, refine the cybersecurity flaws and all of the different, let's say, back-end areas, rather than having a beautiful front-end, mass adopting, bringing billions of people, and then all of them losing their monies to hacks. So I definitely believe there is a long way to go there. However, I do see it moving forward. If you look at the likes of MasterCard, who are developing really great APIs to connect to their merchants, to allow, for example, if you're going to go and pay for your coffee when you get out of here, if you want to pay with your US dollars, euros, Swiss francs, or whatever, the terminal doesn't really care. It's going to directly convert that. So ultimately, in the next couple of years, you're going to be able to do that with a credit card or a debit card with crypto quite seamlessly. So these things are happening. I think it will just, you'll have maybe your backend in a MetaMask or something like this, and via an API will just connect and it will become more seamless. I think we will integrate more of, let's say, the crypto and Web3 into some of the Web2 applications, and things will be much more seamless. I think the retail will see it happen with just like a click of their fingers, like, let's say, tapping your credit card now when you pay. One day to the next, it kind of happened, right? And so I think they're just going to feel it happen one day to the next, whereby for us, it's been the past 10 years that we've been trying to develop this up.
What about yourself?
I think you raise a very good point, actually. Indeed, there is 1.4 billion people, adults actually, which are unbanked currently. The problem is that as of today, you need some knowledge to have access to DeFi, some knowledge to understand how it works. It's not that simple. It's not that intuitive, actually. If we want to really untap those markets which have no access today, we have to make things more straightforward, probably, and more intuitive for people who currently have not access to the financial system, which generally are low-income people. They are less educated people. So in a way, already those factors and elements are an obstacle to the understanding of how it works and having access. Because of course, one can have a smartphone, but at the end of the day, when you have an app, but you don't know exactly how to use it, well, then again, it's useless at the end of the day.
I think true financial inclusion comes at a cost, and the cost is user experience. As I mentioned earlier as well, the education curve, most nowadays we've seen a high influx of people that are actually building Web3 platforms coming to us and saying, look, how can you make it as similar to Web2 without our users seeing the Web3 interface, so that they have sort of a continuity between coming from a Web2 platform to a Web3 platform. And then maybe down the road, when we have sort of finished educating them, we can sort of start, showing some of the Web3 features in the front. For now, just let's keep it at the backwards. So I think that's part of it is right, but part of it is wrong, because you're delaying the education. So I think that's where the UX engineers and UX researchers needs to work in, is how we can bridge that gap between Web2 and Web3 without having to compromise on the features that actually create the Web3. And some of the things that are happening. I was actually reading a research paper, UX paper, a couple of days back, and it mentioned that some of the users that have actually transitioned from a Web2 application to the Web3 application, the most difficulty they've had is during the sign-up process while they're going through KYC, because they understand the need to submit, your passport or your ID just while you're logging into the system of creating an account. So one of the company, Binance, actually did delayed KYC. But again, that's where the education has to come in. Like, look, you're actually entering into a financial ecosystem, and you're now going to start conducting financial transactions, and that's where that traceability comes in, and that's why you have to provide the documentation.
I think this year there has been a massive change in what we expect of the user interface. As you know, connecting MetaMask not so easy, so I do see some very big advancement. A colleague that come and visit us from Puerto Rico showed me, I'm not here to promote a solution, but today we have something like, blockchain has been with us for 14, 15 years. You go to Google, you do search, you see 4 billion entries. You go to Google and you ask for ChatGPT, you see maybe 8 billion entries. So 14 years versus 2 or 3 months, and a lot more adoption. And I think ChatGPT is not because it's AI, because it's been with us for many years, the fact that you have some conversational interface. So we did develop the WhatsApp interface into your wallet. So you can just go to WhatsApp, you say create wallet, boom, your wallet is ready, send, receive, and everything is attached to your mobile number. So the experience becomes conversational, and you don't have to worry about all the elements that go around. So I think there's a lot of improvement, and the people or the companies that make these new innovative solutions are the ones that are going to get the most traction on the market. But DeFi is evolving. So let's go now on the positive side of where DeFi is trying to get traction. We have seen DeFi almost everywhere. We have something called gamify, which is a combination of DeFi and gaming. We have DeFi also being combined with NFT technology, meaning there's a local solution here called NFTU Loan, allows you to take DeFi loans against your NFTs. So it's a combination of DeFi finance with NFT technology. So what do you see your side of evolution of DeFi in ecosystem with other technologies to potentially create better traction in the evolution of DeFi?
I think one of the greatest evolutions there is the optionality, right? It's the ability to have another option to what exists today, right? If we look at what exists today, where you can have your money managers, be it the banks, etc., we're not hiding all of our cash under the mattress. I think the greatest evolution of DeFi will be the kind of ability to kind of have that self-ownership, have the ability to decide where your money is being positioned and how your money is making money. I think a great use case there is the ability to say, look, would you prefer to make 10% yield, but not know where that 10% yield is coming from? Maybe it's coming from arms trade, maybe drug trafficking, the likes, things that the banks have been caught for in the past. Or say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take the 6% yield, but I know that this 6% is going into some form, let's say, solar energy, or I'm getting a yield on something that is more positive for the planet. I think the majority of people in this room would agree that they would prefer to do something that is closer to their heart and gain money for it than to just kind of gain money at the detriment of the greater good.
Yeah. This last point, I think it's indeed the most important. It's
so
to be able to
DeFi for
shape,
good.
Yeah, in a way to shape your, the use for what you believe in. So again, it's more about a social way of seeing things.
So social DeFi, decarbonization DeFi, clean blockchains.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think we're already very close to the mass adoption curve for DeFi. And we've really seen, if you look at the numbers this year that have come in last year, prospectively from last year, Binance user base has grown, the overall DeFi market capital has gone, while the market cap of if you look at the traditional markets have slumped. And that actually shows that there is potential in these markets. And as my colleagues over here said, it's all about socializing the DeFi market. Is actually bringing people in. We talked about financial inclusion. This is where that true financial inclusion has to come in, so that this space can really gain traction. It's all, and we talked about user experience. The user experience has to be on point. The financial inclusion has to be in place. The education has to be in place. And I don't think there's a need for a new sort of a new terminology or sort of a new phase to come into DeFi. I think existing platforms that exist in the DeFi space right now can sort of take these principles, adopt them, and sort of can maximize their traction within months.
Another technology that has catch our attention over the last 2 or 3 years is immersive technology of metaverse. And with metaverse also came Web 3.0, where we're trying to take people from the current Web 2 to a more decentralized web. DeFi obviously has a role to play both in the metaverse and Web 3 migration. So what is your opinion? What is the best value that you think DeFi can bring to this new world of metaverse and Web 3.0?
I mean, I think the difference between virtual reality and metaverse is the value economy behind it, and I think blockchain is a great technology to be able to provide that. I have a different kind of, let's say, definition of the metaverse, where I don't necessarily see it as that hardware that you have to put on your eyes and, okay, now I'm in the metaverse. I see it more as an aggregation of the applications of blockchain, be it, for example, DeFi, NFTs, DAOs, etc., all together, where you can have governance layers connecting with finance, connecting with unique objects and the likes, and that creates a certain sense of metaverse. I do believe that we're all living in the metaverse today. On average worldwide, so including all the 8 billion people in the world, we're spending on average 7 hours connected to the internet. Let's say that's half of the, let's say, awake time that we have. So we already spend 50% of our time in a digital form, a digital reality. So our digital identities are becoming more and more valuable. If you look at your neighbor, right, you might not know the name of your neighbor, but you definitely know a lot of the followers you have on Instagram, and they're even more important, right? So I think the metaverse is very important. It's becoming more and more valuable. I think it's why it's been such a big topic for example, Facebook that changed their name to Meta. I think there are a lot of big companies that have seen the importance of creating digital value for their customers there. We see a lot of enterprises today that are looking to get into the metaversal space to be able to connect with their customers in that digital reality. So I think, yeah, it's very important, and blockchain plays a big role in it.
So I do actually prefer the word mini-verse or multiverse, where you have many verses combined that each one performs a function, and definitely wearing these goggles for a long time will give you a big headache. So I think the device of choice for most users today is still the mobile phone. So when the metaverse or mini-verse or multiverse runs on this little device that is in your pocket, I think we will get mass adoption, but I don't think we see people walking around with these anytime soon, or maybe for reduced periods of time. What about your take on the Web3 and the
Well, I think metaverse is all about, for the time being, at least the experience. We at Sygnum Bank, we do have a presence in the metaverse, in Decentraland. And I would say for us, it's to show basically that we are in the future. However, today, I would say it's more about the experience. So what you were saying about the goggles, it's kind of, we all like to be real and to sit together and to share words and have coffee together. But the opportunity which metaverse gives us and to our businesses as well to expand to basically this limitless experience is indeed something which it's already a reality. Maybe, this as well comes with education, what you were saying. There is a learning curve. There is a lot, of course, of people currently yet who are, I would say, a bit more not scared, but in a way, change management takes time, and it is something which, we need to take hand by hand our customers, the people who are involved into projects, to be able to share what the advantages and what the experience will bring.
What is your take on this?
I think if you were to ask in this room the definition of metaverse, I don't think we'd be able to sit down on a single one. We'll have at least 100 definitions. And, and every day I talk to a client, he has his own definition of metaverse. And somehow we've sort of confused XR, which is a mixed reality, with metaverse, which it isn't. If you look at it, we have, if you were to go to the hall right beside that, you'll see dozens of metaverse projects. And we talk about decentralization, but we do not talk about how we're creating silos. All of these metaverses, there's going to become small corners, isolated and all. And the interoperability layer is still missing in the metaverse. We're in very early stages. Last year, Facebook turned to Meta, and really rebranded, and that's what actually pushed metaverse out of the box into the mainstream. And then people started talking about metaverse, and boom, we saw 50, 100 companies lining up to build their metaverses without even having the basic understandings. We, as part of Metaverse Standard Forum, we sit with some of the biggest names in the industry, including Adobe, Meta itself, and they're sort of right now really building the framework of what the metaverse is going to look like. And and it's really about and what we all sort of have agreed on is essentially where web and us, we become one. That's sort of a common or a very basic level definition of what metaverse is. And, DeFi is going to power it all. DeFi is going to be a transaction layer, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. But with all these silos, I think what's really important is for interoperability to happen, interoperability to be there at the DeFi layer, so that we can actually travel between these silos and create an omniverse. This is I had one of my clients reach out to me. He's building 9 metaverses, by the way. So and he wanted to connect them through a bridge. So I said, okay, you're doing an omniverse. And he said, no, I'm doing 9 metaverses. I said, okay. So that is where DeFi comes in. So DeFi has to be the interoperable layer between different metaverses, and maybe we'll see a bigger one big metaverse, and with all these sub-metaverses, really plugging in into that main metaverse. Maybe it's going to be Meta, maybe it's going to be Microsoft. Who knows? Only time will tell.
So portability of digital assets, being able to take what you earn maybe in a game or what you earn watching a video, and then multi-chain, very important. So instead of having just one single chain that serves everybody, how you integrate multiple chains together. We're getting towards the closure of our panel today, but I want my esteemed panelists to maybe in 1 minute or less to give what they consider to be the magic nuggets or the secret sauce or the call to action for the esteemed guests that we also have here today. So what would be your vision or your call to action that they can take back with them once they go back to their offices and to their countries?
I think the world, or us as human beings, operate around trust. The water on this table, we trust, let's say, that the water manufacturer has produced it in the right way. We trust that this conference has been organized, and I think decentralized finance, centralized finance is all about who do you trust. Centralized finance, do you trust the centralized body? Or decentralized finance, do you trust, let's say, either the governance layer, the technology, the smart contracts, etc., right? So depending on where you are in the world, just understanding, okay, what are you trusting? Because either if it's conscious trust or subconscious, you're putting your trust in everything. When you're taking your flights back, when you're taking your taxi, or whatever that is. So my key takeaway there would just be take some reflection along your life, be it from a financial perspective or any other. Where are you putting your trust? Because ultimately we're all putting our trust somewhere. So try to change that subconscious trust to a conscious one to understand where you're putting your value, your hard-earned cash, your hard-earned capital, so that ultimately you can take control a little bit more of your destiny in a way, and you know what you're doing.
So trust the code.
The takeaway for those of you, I would say, who are maybe less crypto native, less crypto activated, less crypto aware, is that technology always brings fear. I mean, improvement of technology brings fears with it, which is totally normal. The unknown, is scary. Because again, we don't know how to handle it, what will the future will be, but in a way, without risk-taking and without some bravery, we would still be a few centuries back without being able to profit of what we have today. So the only thing I would say is, indeed, look forward and not backwards, and take some risks.
I think that's one of the reasons why California is so successful, not because they are better than anybody else, it's because they fail often and they just try again until they succeed. So there's a lot of unicorns coming out of that part of the world. I think the region is learning. India and other parts of the world, including even Africa, is learning with how to fail and how to get up. I think even locally in the region, I remember when I came here 27 years ago, there is always a sense of failure to make a mistake or losing face. And in that sense, that culture needs to evolve and change, and being able to fail and get up again and then evolve and create a better solution. And I think this will allow the region to evolve even faster as we proceed. My last colleague, what is your magic nuggets?
The oldest quote of Wall Street is, don't put your eggs in one basket. So my advice to everyone is, keep an open mind. Again, don't put your eggs in one basket. Keep an open mind. There's a lot of learning that's happening while, most of the people over here are either, business owners, either platform makers, or either, community members who are helping this, Web3 community grow day by day. As my colleague here said, failure, I think it's very imperative for success. If you've not failed, you don't really know what success feels like. And, that's, I think, what the market is going through right now. So I think the biggest motto that I have is, just keep an open mind, give chances and see, where it's going. And, eventually it's going to get it right, because no matter how many times you fail, you only have to get it right once. And that's about it.
Okay. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be with us this morning, and the ones that survived the party last night and were strong enough to be the opening session today. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Maybe I guess we stand up for one last photo, and thank you very much for being with us today.